Thank you very much. Good evening. The keynote speaker, His Excellency Olusegun Obasanjo, who is not here, but by dint of technology, I'm supposed to acknowledge him, because indeed you'll be seeing him. The President of the African Arbitration Association, Chief Bayo Ojo, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, indeed I'm related to deliver a message of solidarity at this event. I take the opportunity to welcome you as the host country's Attorney General and Minister for Justice to our beautiful capital. Accra's diverse, rich, and vibrant sociocultural life is cast in story. And I entreat you over the course of your stay to explore the abundant shades of Ghana's fascinating culture. And I have no doubt that indeed you'll be left in awe. I observe that in its short period of existence, the African Arbitration Association is steadily carving a reputation as the continent's voice on arbitration. Through the various meetings, workshops, and annual conferences, this organization has contributed to the deepening of the culture, understanding, and practice of arbitration on the continent. And I salute the efforts of leaders of the association, particularly Chief Bayo Ojo. As I understand, this is the first time your annual conference is being held physically since 2019, after the onset of COVID-19. It is thus refreshing to know that lawyers on the continent and stakeholders in the business climate of Africa can meet in person and that the event can proceed in a physical form. And I dare say that you could not have had a better place for a return to physical annual conferences than Ghana. This country's formidable track record in democracy, rule of law, relatively good governance over the past 30 years, indeed position Ghana as a destination of choice for investment with residual benefits for infrastructural growth. International commercial disputes are a necessary consequence of this phenomenon, and Ghana has had its fair share of same in the recent past. And what strikes me about the changes forced upon the world by COVID-19 is that dispute resolution is inevitable. In the teeth of COVID-19, international arbitration continued. I recall that in 2020, on 2 different occasions at this very hotel, I led state attorneys conduct virtual trials in 2 different international arbitration hearings over a 1-week period, each in some matters affecting the state, with the participants in both trials sitting in Italy, England, the United States of America, Nigeria, and Ghana at the same time. Dispute resolution, particularly arbitration, is indeed unavoidable. And I think that as a host Attorney General, I deem it appropriate to share a few thoughts on arbitration, especially the subject matter, or some of the topics that you'll be treated to. So if I would entreat you not to be too bored. Litigation and dispute resolution in Africa has indeed evolved from the traditional dispute resolution mechanism of referral to the family or tribal head with appellate structures leading up to a chief's palace. More complex mechanisms for resolving disputes are now in place and must be explored by the practitioner. Most countries now have a 4-tier structure for conflict resolution in their superior court. However, as we all know, the rapidly evolving business space in Africa has necessitated the development of parallel structures in the nature of arbitration for the resolution of disputes. As practitioners, we fail to learn the rudiments of international arbitration at our own peril. I say that whether it is arbitration or the traditional court system, a justice system must guarantee transparency, certainty, and fairness. As counsel to the Republic in various arbitration proceedings against the state, I can assert that there have been many instances where African countries have been at the receiving end of huge arbitral awards, unfairly delivered in favor of big foreign multinationals, in circumstances which show a disregard for the context in which the agreements in question were negotiated. It is for this reason that I find the theme chosen for your conference, Africanization of dispute resolution, very appropriate. We cannot but strengthen the mechanisms for resolution of commercial disputes in our respective countries, since a robust legal system, in my respectful view, goes hand in hand with economic prosperity. The setting up of a fair and efficient system for commercial disputes adjudication must therefore sit right at the top of our developmental agenda. It's about time we fully recognize that international arbitration can occur in our own countries. It did not be on foreign land. Arbitration is international not because of the forum or place of hearing, but largely because the parties involved in the underlying transaction. I'm happy to note that Africa is developing its own international arbitration fora. The Mauritius Court of International Arbitration is a full-fledged entity and is doing very well in commercial dispute resolution. The Lagos Court of Arbitration, established in 2009, is also doing great. Coming home, it is worthy to note that Ghana's Alternative Dispute Resolution Act 2010, at 798, provides for the setting up of an arbitration center. Even though we have an arbitration center, that center is currently privately owned. As Deputy Attorney General in November 2018, I stated at the International Bar Association's Dispute Resolution Conference that there is a need to make Ghana a highly respected home for arbitration in Africa, and whose arbitration awards are effectively enforced worldwide. The time has come for us to implement Section 114 of Act 798 by setting up a state-owned and state-funded Ghana Alternative Dispute Resolution Center, which will provide a modern, reliable, and business-friendly mechanism for resolving investment, infrastructure, and commercial disputes in the country and throughout the African continent. I know that some practitioners will point to the existence of the current arbitration center, but that center, as I said, is owned and run by a private entity. Act 798 requires the state to establish their own arbitration center. The obligation of the state to set up and fund a national arbitration center is thus statutory, and we must obey same. The main argument to opposition to this is familiar to me, that arbitration is private, and therefore the state has no business running an arbitration center. I say in answer that the state sets up and fully funds courts for private people, and the state even assesses these courts and has judgment given against her in the same court. The case against the state-owned arbitration center is thus, in my very respectful view, weak. Towards implementing Section 114 of Act 798, when I assumed office as Attorney General in 2021, I tasked a group of senior lawyers reputed for the conduct of arbitration in this country to devise practical steps to set up the center. I will not mention names, but to date I have not received any report or suggestions whatsoever. I remain committed to this, and to realize this vision, I have charged Mrs. Nanya Saki or Mrs. Nanya Usu Ankoma to constitute a team which will advise me on practical ways to set up the arbitration center. Africa's quest for infrastructure, a market to export commodities, and an atmosphere for trade will necessarily involve interactions between states and states, states and individuals, states and corporations, and corporations and corporations, and of course, corporations and individuals. These levels of relationships will definitely result in conflict. The launch of the African Continental Free Trade Area represents an opportunity to Africa to manifest to the world the strength of its potential and the entrepreneurial spirit to the people. And of course, you all know the headquarters of the AFTA is located right here in Africa, in Accra. Providing a large market space connecting 1.3 billion people and creating a 3.4 trillion economic bloc, it will boost commerce within the African continent. But dispute will be a byproduct. The recently established dispute settlement body protocol under the AFTA, which I was privileged to launch in Accra in April 2021, monitors and evaluates the dispute settlement mechanism under the AFTA. It is composed of representatives of all state parties and is set up to be fast, efficient, rules-based, and transparent. I urge African lawyers to quickly familiarize themselves with the protocol and rules of a dispute settlement body so as to be of help to their respective countries. May I not bore you further. I know that you will live here richer on account of the depth of understanding of the international legal arena possessed by your well-renowned speakers. Africa definitely will be the winner. I'm grateful for the opportunity to make these few remarks. And indeed, I will entreat you to also enjoy the nightlife of Accra, the various places of interest. Readily, I can remember Kozo, Santoku, Sky Bar, Twist, and what have you. If you need more, I refer you to Nania.
Thank you so much.